right, folks, we'll take it from here. JT and Cash are on the case.
After Map of Infinity set up Wave 2 of the Ultimate Greg arc, airing this episode next was one of the biggest blue ball moments of the show. It made the episode very hard to enjoy for what it is, so let's take another look at it. People ripping off Ben's image has been done a few times in the franchise's run, but this instance is often forgot about. Funny enough, this episode is more relevant than ever with the rise of online web shows, streaming, and the ease of monetizable content.
We'll give you 10% of the revenue stream, plus a signing bonus up front. Let's make some magic.
Twitter is even directly mentioned by Gwen.
Already got over 200 tweets about it.
If I sound like a broken record saying I'm getting tired of the Forever Nights, that just goes to show how overused and underpowered they are. Even this big robo thing gave them more of a challenge. But there is a fair amount of good humor in this episode.
What's it like being you? Awesome. I knew it.
The callbacks to previous episodes were fun too.
This is where Ben got outmaneuvered by 3 old enemies.
It was a nice way to explore the more comedic side of the show. But just as the web show idea was getting stale, introducing Siphon into the story was a great way to keep up the pace and continue to be creative with the concept. I also love that Siphon was watching their web show all the way in space, not for surveillance, but just because he actually enjoys them.
I find all of your primitive computer networking endeavors intriguing.
What kind of YouTube videos do you think Siphon would watch? Comment below. Ending the episode with Cash and JT actually saving the day, but not getting any credit for it, was a nice way to wrap things up with balanced karma.
Even the internet thinks you're a waste of time.
Armadillo's voice sounded pretty weird though.
Armadillo!
And the most unbelievable part of this episode is that the trio got roped into this scam by a lame sympathy speech. Even though they started doubting it, they still felt obligated to blindly go along with it just because they were asked nicely. While there was a lot of great character moments in this episode, I still highly doubt that they'd normally succumb to this scam so easily, especially with how we've seen Ben react to all the other times he gets ripped off. Bringing back Oliver was an interesting idea, and I respect them for using their pool of characters before creating a new one. I also forgot that this entire thing was his idea to begin with,
because I know a potential gold mine when I see it.
and he was just using JT and Cash as proxies, so perhaps he's more malicious than I thought. JT and Cash were fine in this episode too. It was actually amusing to see them fall so hard after being at the top of their school's food chain when we first met them in Classic. There's a lot of great choreography in this episode, especially with Kevin and Gwen. Unfortunately, the ultimate spider monkey scene was the most disappointing and uninteresting action scene, so even in season 2, the show still doesn't seem to care about what it's named after. I was fascinated to see Siphon use some of Vilgax's power. I forgot he even did this in this episode. He even displayed some unique powers of his own. Then, when his powers are sucked away, we see him more reliant on technology in the next series. As much as I like his more pathetic persona in Omniverse, it was still cool to see him be legit threatening. OV Siphon is still better though. The Reds were okay, but it still would have been better to see those drones return. There was a lot of unusual locations here, like seeing a Forever Knight's daily life apartment, and I love whenever characters take actual battle damage. As you'd expect, there's nothing here that helps the grand narrative of the franchise, and it isn't discussed all that much either. This episode's biggest weakness was definitely the fact that it followed Map of Infinity, but even without that, it's hard for it to stand on its own as a truly good episode of UA. It's really not as bad as I remembered, but in the middle of the Map of Infinity arc, it's a real buzzkill.
Now that's pathetic.